welcome aboard.
Please welcome to the stage Axios Atlanta reporter Thomas Wheatley.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. My name's Thomas Wheatley. I'm a reporter at Axios Atlanta. Thank you for joining us today. It's an event that I'm really excited about because it's an issue I care a lot about, maintaining Georgia's clean energy lead. Before we get started, just a quick reminder, if you're not signed up for the Axios Atlanta newsletter, please do sign up. I co-write it with my colleague, Crystal Dixon, and it is a wonderful way to start your day. And I say that with full confidence. I'm not biased at all. So without further ado, I'm excited to dive into the topic. Please welcome our first guest, Public Service Commissioner Tim Echols.
Hey,
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Hey, everyone.
You were elected to the Georgia PSC in 2010. How has clean energy changed in Georgia in that time? How has the landscape changed?
Wow, I put solar thermal on my Athens house in 2010. And at the commission, we really knew nothing about solar in 2011 when I got there. Georgia had like 2 measly megawatts of solar statewide. And I think the big change was this, as the prices came down on that, and thanks to my colleague, Commissioner Bubba McDonnell, who really had a vision for jump-starting it, we forced Georgia Power to enter into this business. They did not want to add solar, but we knew that once they did, they would get good at it. We knew they would make money at it, and that's exactly what's happened. Georgia is now 7th in the nation in installed utility-scale solar. So it's been kind of a combination of the commission jump-starting it and then the pricing being where it's been, and just allowed Georgia to gain some real dominance.
Was that difficult having those conversations at first with Georgia Power, and how did you present the case that this was not just a smart way to go, but also the right time to do it?
It was 2013 in a very controversial vote. It was 3-2 on the commission to add 525 megawatts of solar. And it was that batch of solar, that tranche of solar, if you will, that really convinced Georgia Power that this could be done in an economical way. And so I think Republicans were skeptical about this initially. And as this solar went down to very needy counties in Georgia, like Taylor County, Mitchell County, deep South Georgia counties that really were economically depressed in some ways, and they saw the tax revenue that it was bringing to them, and that solar arrays were very good neighbors. There were no police protection needed. There were no concerns about public safety. There was no educational issues. I mean, it was just making money for these counties, and I think that kind of brought South Georgia Republicans along on this.
Got it. In that time, so that's been 14 years. What are the things that you're seeing now, the initiatives, the ideas that are most interesting to you? What is most exciting to you?
I mean, I wasn't that interested in data centers, but data centers are upon us, and it's. And maybe you've done what I've done, is you've just kind of put all data centers into one bucket, but they're really not. There are data centers that are focused on, Outlook 365 or other Microsoft products. There are data centers that really focus on products that kids are using after school, so they're having a spike after school. There are, of course, Bitcoin miners that have a lot of fluctuation in how they're mining Bitcoins. And I think this is going to be the energy hog of the future, these data centers. And in fact, I think data centers are kind of cutting in front of EVs. And I'm on my 7th EV. I've been an EV champion for Georgia, but data centers use so much more energy than electric vehicles. And some states are pushing them away, and they just don't have the extra power. Georgia's blessed. We've got a 26% reserve margin here, but I think data centers could gobble that up pretty quickly.
And we are going to see next year at the Public Service Commission with a new IRP, Integrated Resource Plan, correct? That Georgia Power has already signaled we're going to be needing more energy.
Yeah, not just a little more, but a third of our entire grid worth of power. So this is going to be an enormous amount. And I think there are a lot of my environmental friends that feel like, wow, we've been moving away from fossil fuels, and now all of a sudden you guys are looking at this again. And what's causing us to have to make these actions are these data centers. So we either push the data centers away or we add some more natural gas generation. And as much as my environmental friends don't want to see natural gas, it is so much cleaner than coal. There's no ash involved. It's half of the CO2. So there's a lot of benefit. I mean, the electricity we're getting right here today is coming from Plant McDonough, a gas plant, just about 8 miles away on the Chattahoochee River. It's a very important plant. It powers virtually all of Atlanta.
How much can clean energy, like specifically solar, maybe biomass, if you would put that under the umbrella? I know that some people don't agree with that. How much could that play into this hunger?
Yeah, I think it can't just be solar. It's got to be solar plus batteries, because you've got to have it 24/7.
Yeah.
Because the data centers are running in the middle of the night. So it's not like a business that's closing at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. So I think we have the ability, we've got the land to be able to add a lot more solar. And I mean, we won't see it here. The land's too expensive. But as you go into South Georgia, down past Macon, down into Southwest Georgia, you've got cheap land, flat land, proximity to substations, which is the on-ramp to the grid. I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of solar plus storage added next year.
When we see the increase in clean energy investment here, what's primarily driving it? Is it concerns about climate change, concerns about the environment? Is it just it makes more sense, on an economic sense? What is pushing this, and who is pushing it?
I really think the IRA has to get a lot of the credit for causing this to happen, the Inflation Reduction Act, because of the tax credits involved and the incentives. I think that has triggered a lot of companies going, okay, we need to do this now. Where should we do it? Well, we need power. Where's that available? Okay, Georgia. We need cheap land. Where's that? Okay, Georgia. We need workforce. Where's that? Okay, Georgia. So there are some other things that our state's really doing right that's put us in line to be able to get this. And the power is just a small piece of it. But I think you're going to see more companies like Rivian, Hyundai, SK Innovations, Q-Cells, these battery companies, and we're going to hear about some of those today. And I think you're just going to see much more of them come to Georgia, where we're sitting in a really great place from economic development.
What are the biggest challenges? What are the biggest obstacles and roadblocks to preventing that from happening?
Well, you always have infrastructure issues. As you bring more people in, you've got to add another lane to the freeway. You've got to add more schools. You've just got more building that you do to accommodate all of these people that are coming in. And you want to do that in the smartest, most sustainable way possible. So that's going to fall back to cities like Atlanta, counties, and those commissioners in those counties who are approving these zoning practices, allowing these companies to come in. And then creative places like Savannah that's really having to make tremendous moves to accommodate a company like Hyundai and all of those employees that are coming. I mean, Savannah is going to experience, I think, even more growth than we're seeing in Atlanta. There's just so much going on down there right now.
Interesting. There's been a lot of discussion ever since I started covering the PSC back in 2009 and writing about energy issues, about the role of mandates versus the market, and how should those two mix or not mix, and how much of its muscle should the PSC use in saying, we need more solar, we need more natural gas, we need X, we need X, we need X. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that we have found a sweet spot in terms of where the policy needs to be, or are you open to saying, hey, we need to really press the gas here, and we need more investment on clean energy from the parts of Georgia Power?
I think you always have to look at the political environment of whatever jurisdiction you're in. So in California, it is a little more mandate friendly out there. I mean, you've got all of these agencies like the California Energy Commission. They've got their own Public Utility Commission. They've got the Air Resource Board. You've got all of these things that are attempting to fix a problem in San Bernardino, down in Irvine, with a lot of pollution that just lingers, that's blocked by mountains. So they're doing a lot to try to fix that. And that means decarbonizing transportation. That means doing anything that they can to reduce smog. And we just haven't had that big an issue with smog here in Atlanta. So it's not top of mind. I mean, you think about the chemical fire that we had out in Conyers recently. If we were having this kind of thing happen all the time, or heavy smog, then politicians would be thinking about it more. Constituents would be pressing us more. And what constituents do and say to their politicians has an impact. And in Georgia, it's a heavy Republican environment, and that matters on policies that I create and my colleagues create. Obviously, if we were operating in California, we probably would do it different. It's just always dependent on what the politics are.
What do you think needs to happen next in terms of getting to that next stage with solar, getting to where we see when a data center, or when Georgia Power or data centers say, there are a lot more of us coming, we need a lot more energy. Hey, I know we just said we needed more, we need more. How can we get to a spot where we're not just trying to catch up?
I mean, if I could wave a magic wand, I would have all data centers, and they are backed up 100% by generators behind their building. I would ask them to move from Tier 2 generators to Tier 4. Tier 4 generators are EPA compliant. They're cleaner. You think of just a typical Caterpillar generator that you see behind any building, maybe even this building, versus a Volvo generator that is Tier 4 EPA compliant. So that's number one, is that I would get data centers focusing more on sustainability. And I think I would just create more virtual power plants. That means if you've got an EV that we are going to provide you with a vehicle-to-grid charger. The power company would provide that to you on a lease. We would pay you to pull power back out of your car every afternoon, maybe for 15 minutes. We would do the same thing with Publix, Walmart, Targets, Ikeas. Anybody with a generator that was Tier 4, we would, instead of building a new power plant, we would tap their generator for 15 minutes on a hot afternoon. So I think I would just get more people involved in helping us solve the problem.
Got it. Well, Commissioner, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Our next guest is the Chief Sustainability Officer at the City of Atlanta, Chandra Farley.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on what's been an incredibly busy day and a busy week and a busy year. I was really looking forward to chatting with you because we've talked a lot about the clean energy goals that the city has. Based on my understanding, if I remember correctly, 100% clean energy by 2035. And that is for municipal operations. It's not necessarily for residential homes, but fleets, city buildings, rec centers, you name it. If it's in the city's name, it's clean energy. Where are we on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great to be speaking with you, Thomas. I want to thanks to Axios for inviting me to be here today. So actually, look, some clarity on that 100% clean energy goal. It is not just for municipal operations, it is for community-wide.
Oh, whoa, I did not.
Yes.
Okay, corrected.
Yes, so City of Atlanta's clean energy goal, yes, worth a clap, yes. 100% clean energy by 2035 community-wide. So I like the big challenge of that. Usually I'll give people sort of a little view of a pie chart. If we're looking at a pie chart, about 10% of that is municipal operations. The other 90% of that is community, businesses, nonprofits, schools, our commercial sector. So it's a big, ambitious goal, but we do a lot of work at the city to make sure that we're progressing. One of the things I've been focused on actually is progress verification. So where are we? So when City Council adopted the 100% clean energy goal, they also adopted interim targets. So we are supposed to be at 30% by 2025 next year, 50% by 2030, and then getting to 100% by 2035. And so there are three main strategies that we are employing to reach that goal. One is just to reduce our consumption, energy efficiency as much as possible, upgrading our buildings, working with our commercial sector, with our commercial building energy efficiency ordinance to make sure they're reducing. Because buildings is Atlanta's largest source of emissions, electricity serving buildings. Number two is to procure as much renewable energy as possible. So City of Atlanta has the largest municipal solar program in the state. We've got solar on 36 of our municipal facilities right now. Our recreation centers, our fire stations, and our watershed management facilities. The airport has just come on as our newest user to that program, so we're really excited about the opportunities there. And then the third component of that pathway is we will have to enter the renewable energy credits market.
Okay. And if I recall correctly from when we spoke, I believe last about where we were along that if the city considered nuclear energy clean energy, then we would be even farther along, but the city does not. Is that correct?
That's correct. So also a point of clarity, a lot of things that we have been doing is helping people understand when we talk about City of Atlanta's clean energy goals and energy mix, we are talking about Georgia Power's energy mix. So we, as a city, we're Georgia Power's largest customer. So when we are talking about how do we reach 100% clean energy, we're looking at Georgia Power's energy mix, which right now is about 13% renewables and 24% clean, as that is their nuclear mix. When City of Atlanta adopted its clean energy plan, we did not include nuclear in that definition. I was on the advocacy side of things at that time. So really our clean energy goal is a renewable energy goal. So focused on renewable sources, solar, biogas, not really wind here in Georgia, solar, biogas, hydro, those kinds of, those mixes on the renewable energy side. So our clean energy plan was written to be updated every 3 years to align with the integrated resource plan process that we go in front of the Public Service Commission and Commissioner Eccles to engage in to make sure that we're advocating as a city and along with a number of other cities in the state to advocate for policies and implementation of actions that can help us reach those goals.
What have been the biggest challenges for y'all as a city in pursuing those goals?
Yeah, so I would say 2 challenges. You know, I consider challenges things that can be hard but can be overcome. So that's process and money. So processes at the city, they are what they are. We can't do anything about the legislative calendar. We work within that. But it's also important to remember I'm a mayor's office, the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Resilience. So we can set policies, plans, and targets, but all of those policies and plans and targets have to get implemented through our operating departments. So when we talk about our Solar Atlanta program, that's a partnership with our Department of Parks and Recreation because we're putting solar on recreation centers. That's a partnership with Department of Watershed Management because that's where that solar is. So making sure that we are partnered with our operating departments and leveraging those city processes to our advantage for timelines and learning about information that we need, resources that we need. So I would say those are the 2 biggest challenges. As far as barriers, something that can be harder to overcome that we don't necessarily have control over is our regulatory environment for solar.
Yeah.
So that is, not having access to equitable net metering, which makes to make the economics work on solar, especially on the residential side, the distributed energy side, which is going to be so critical to our ability to meet our clean energy goals.
Can you break down equitable net metering for people who aren't familiar with it?
So that it is true net. So, we pay, let's say, 11, 12 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity instead of just looking at like avoided cost of getting back 3 or 4 cents. We would get closer to that true net that we pay retail.
Got it. How is the city making sure that these investments that y'all are making are equitable? For example, while making downtown buildings energy efficient, like you said, buildings are the main driver of a lot of our emissions. But it's also, how do you weigh in and factor in people living in low incomes in communities, residential needs, things along those lines?
Yeah. So racial equity and environmental justice are a foundational baseline for everything that we do at the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Resilience. So one of the primary ways to do that is through community input. Community has to be co-designers along with these processes. They are the ones that we are depending on to help us meet these goals. So we have a Clean Energy Advisory Board. That was actually a short-term policy action that was written into the Clean Energy Plan. So that is a 26-member board of community partners, nonprofits, but one of the important things about that is we set aside a certain number of seats on that board, specifically for residents from the most energy-burdened neighborhoods of Atlanta. So City of Atlanta is, depending on which data set you're looking at, is in the top 3 to 5 for energy burden in the entire nation. So it's critical that we have those community members at the table as we're making those decisions on where to put investment, how do we work the timelines for those investment, what does the community benefit look like, who benefits and why. So really starting with that community voice is the first way that we make sure that our policy actions and how we implement those policy actions are rooted in equity.
Do you have any examples of how that's played out in terms of, hey, don't pursue this program just yet, or maybe you should target more of the funding over here into this neighborhood?
Yeah, absolutely. So those energy burden neighborhoods that I mentioned, when we are targeting particularly residential investment, we're looking at those neighborhoods. So a great example of that is our Weatherize Atlanta program. It's an energy burden reduction program and is supporting the mayor's goal to reduce energy burden on 10% of our most energy burdened households. So we were able to utilize funding from the American Rescue Plan Act to deliver a pilot program. So right now we worked with a team of canvassers from Sustainable Georgia Futures from those neighborhoods who went out, they knocked on 5,000 doors. We've had interest from about 200 households. It's an owner-occupied program, so we probably ended up with about 70 or 80 who were actually homeowners, actually met the income requirements, and we're working our way through that list to make actual health and safety and energy efficiency upgrades to people's homes in South and Southwest Atlanta.
The Inflation Reduction Act, from what I understand, y'all are going to have an announcement tomorrow, correct, about additional investments. Can you tell us what it is now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
And we're not scooping. That announcement was made on Earth Day. Atlanta, Savannah, and Decatur, in partnership with Capital Good Funds, was awarded $156 million and $10,000 from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. That is an EPA program, and our award is Solar for All, which is one of those 3 programs that was funded through the $27 billion Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. So we'll be utilizing those dollars to expand Weatherize beyond the pilot program, because part of Weatherize is moving people on a path, moving homeowners and households on a path towards possibly being able to host solar on their rooftops.
What's the biggest obstacle for that, for hosting solar? I've run into that problem before.
Yeah, I think one is the economics. We still have a lot of work to do to make sure that the economics work. 2 is structure of homes. So we are working to address that, like with our Weatherize Atlanta program. Invest Atlanta also has an owner-occupied rehab program. The city has a roof replacement program in partnership with the nonprofit. So really making sure that the structure of the home is ready. If the electrical panel needs to be upgraded as we start talking about electrification. So those are challenges, but not things that I necessarily see as barriers because of the influx of dollars that we're going to be able to leverage through things like Solar for All.
Got it. And Commissioner Eccles touched on it. It's the magic wand question. It's the if you could do something to make your job easier to reach that goal, what would it be? And what are some ideas that we're not using currently that you think we could be?
Yeah, number one is true community solar. Community solar, because everybody's not going to be able to host solar on their rooftop for reasons. Every business isn't going to be able to host solar on their rooftop. So we're really going to need to be able to have real community solar, which means that it can result in bill savings, that it's not a premium program, that if you're signing up for that program and participating in that program, that you're going to be able to see the benefit on your bills, in addition to supporting a reduction in carbon emissions. So that is definitely number one. Commissioner Eccles mentioned it. Atlanta and Decatur and Savannah actually came together on another Inflation Reduction Act grant opportunity called the Energy Futures Grant. It's a research grant. We're partnering with Georgia Tech and their Energy Shed project. So we hear a lot about watershed, and so they're looking at what it means to be in an energy shed. And so we will be looking at virtual power plant opportunities, I think, which is something we're very excited about on the horizon and to learn more about and be able to leverage that. In addition to the actual physical infrastructure work that we need to do, these kinds of new technologies and new methods of being able to reach clean energy goals are going to be important.
Very cool. And Atlanta, Decatur, and Savannah, this is like the clean energy trio of Georgia?
Yeah.
You'll hang out a lot?
There are a couple of more. Yeah, we're together all the time. We loosely come together, including Athens-Clarke County and DeKalb County as the Georgia Coalition of Local Governments. And so this is a group that we come together as cities because we all have 100% clean energy goals. We intervene at the Public Service Commission together as a coalition. We participate in other processes at the Public Service Commission to really be a voice for cities. And we will continue to do that. And so that's our broader Clean Energy Cities crew. And on some of the federal funding opportunities, it's been Atlanta, Savannah, and Decatur that have mostly officially partnered on things like Solar for All with Capital Good Fund. Although with our Solar for All award, we set aside a certain percentage of that award for other cities that we hope will come into the program. So because we've already got components of residential solar programs up and running, have worked on something that we're calling community benefit solar to help more nonprofits, churches host solar on their rooftops. Since we have some of those things already going in our cities, we're kind of the first ones out the gate to be able to kind of proof of concept over the next year, and then really have something we can show other cities to bring them into the program as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's all the time we have.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Program will continue.
Introducing our View from the Top moderator and Axios publisher, Nicholas Johnston.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Nicholas Johnston, the publisher of Axios. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. This is super exciting for us to get out on the road. I love, love, love visiting our Axios local cities, getting to hang out with Thomas and Crystal. If you are not already a subscriber to Axios Local, please sign up. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for supporting our local journalism. Also, huge thanks to all of our partners. Like everything we do across the United States, the events like this, the music we have like that, the investments we make in local journalism, none of that would be possible without our partners. So a huge, huge thanks to the American Chemistry Council for making today's conversation possible. So I'm very excited to welcome to the stage the American Chemistry Council's President and CEO, Chris John, and Science Co. Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, Mike Finelli. Good to see you, Chris. Mike.
Hi, Nick.
Welcome to the Axios stage. So, Chris, we have been on kind of a nationwide tour.
Yes, we have.
The last year or so. Texas, Louisiana, we did Ohio, now we're in Georgia, which led me to realize, why are we in Georgia? And so a little bit of research to seeing that Georgia is like the 13th largest chemistry producing state in the nation. Tell us a little bit for this audience, like why that's important and why it matters.
Yeah, it matters here in Georgia because of, number one, jobs. So our industry supports 4 million American jobs all across this country, high-paying jobs, 50,000 of them right here in Georgia. Secondly, we've got a lot of folks from the government here today. Our industry pays $250 million a year in state and local taxes, which you can use for better roads, better schools, more parks for your kids to play in. And then third and foremost, what we're really going to focus on here today is innovation. So all the cool stuff that you heard about this morning in terms of that clean energy transition starts with our industry. It starts with chemistry. Literally everything that's manufactured in the United States starts with chemistry. Your clothes you're wearing, the phone you're using, the chair you're sitting on, that starts with our industry. And really excited to talk to you today about moving forward. And that's why we say that American success relies on American chemistry.
So let's talk to somebody who actually does the hard work instead of just talking about it like us.
Exactly.
Mike, tell us a little bit about Science Co's presence in this state, what you're working on, and how it fits into the broader picture that Chris just
Thanks,
outlined.
Nick. So Science Co. is a science-based company. Science is in our name, Science Co. And Georgia is a really important state for us. So like across the United States, we have about 5,000 employees. We're present in 25 states, but we have 1,000 of those employees right here in Georgia. We have 3 important sites here. We have a very large research and development site about 45 minutes north in Alpharetta. We have a manufacturing site in Winder, Georgia, and then we have a large manufacturing site in Augusta, Georgia. So you asked the question, what does Science Co do, right? Mm-hmm. So the easy way for me to explain this is to say, if it flies, we're on it. Whether it's a commercial aircraft or a military or defense aircraft or a space aircraft, we're on it. We help enable flight. If it drives, we're in it. 80% of every vehicle on the road contains a Science Co product. Whether it's an internal combustion engine or a BEV or a hybrid, doesn't matter. We make them faster, cheaper. We make them lighter to improve sustainability. In the space of healthcare, we save lives. Patients with renal failure, with kidney failure, right? 60, 70% of them, their blood are filtered with a membrane made by Science Co, by the raw material. And that monomer for that product is made right here in Georgia at our Augusta facility. It's polymerized in Ohio, but the starting material is made here in Georgia. If you're talking about, maybe see a show of hands, who took a shower this morning? Right? Okay.
I have to raise my hand.
25% of you, if you showered, if you use shampoo or conditioner, you use the Science Co product. And 90% of what we produce in that space is either biosourced or biodegradable by design. Okay, so we build sustainability right up front into our products. And many of those products are made right here in Winder, Georgia. The last thing I'll mention is if you like mobile devices, right, or you like electronics, your phone, your tablet, your computer. If you like artificial intelligence, every part of that space, right, is fueled and driven by high-performing semiconductors. 90% of every semiconductor produced in the world relies on Science Co chemistry to make those products. So I can tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years. This is probably the most exciting time I've seen in chemistry.
Yeah.
All the advancements you heard about this morning, all the clean energy, all the sustainability, and the work that's got to be done to decarbonize our planet. As Chris said, it starts with chemistry. And ScienceCo's thrilled to be a big part of that.
That was a lot. I want to come back
Yeah,
to the
sorry.
semiconductor thing in a minute, but let's zero in a little bit on what we're talking about today as far as driving energy sustainability topics.
Yeah.
Like, what is coming next on that? What are you excited about? What's looking over the horizon on that topic?
So we're real excited about, and also right here in Georgia, we received the Department of Energy grant. You heard about the IRA, the IIJ this morning. We received $178 million from the DOE to build what's called a PVDF plant. That's polyvinylidene difluoride for the chemists in the audience. This is a fluoropolymer, thermoplastic fluoropolymer. It's used as the binder to make lithium-ion batteries, right? So there's a lot of chemistry inside a battery. Everybody thinks about lithium. Well, yeah, lithium's one piece, one part of that battery. But in that cathode, you have a lot of different chemistries together that have to work together and stay together for the life of that battery, which is a 10-plus year in a car. Our material, PVDF, is the binder. It's the glue that keeps all of these ingredients doing its job. And we have the most advanced binders in the world. They make the cars safer, okay? They allow them to charge faster. And most importantly, because our binder has the best adhesion out there, you need less of our product so you can put more active ingredient inside the battery, extending the range of a battery, right? So we're super excited to be building this plant. We had a groundbreaking ceremony a few months ago. We're going to do this right here in Augusta, Georgia. So it's a great
And this is kind of like the two sides of the sustainability journey that we're on.
Yeah.
We need sustainable technologies, but it's also making those sustainable technologies in a sustainable way. That's what that battery facility
That's absolutely right.
gets
yeah.
into. I want to come back to semiconductors, which is really cool. Such a hot topic right now,
Yeah.
especially in
Yeah.
DC. I wonder if, Chris, you could give us a sense of, from your vantage point with the CHIPS Act, the IRA, so much of the Science Act, so much of that focus on semiconductors, where does the chemistry industry fit into all of that?
Yeah, so $60 billion of grants and loans for companies to manufacture chips here in the United States to protect our national economic security. So believe it or not, there are actually 500 chemistries that go into manufacturing one computer chip. So we're really excited about the opportunity to participate in that from a market development standpoint, of course, but also to, again, protect our national economic security. The challenge we have, though, is that the Biden administration is coming out with rules and regulations that are making it very difficult to manufacture some of those chemistries here in the US. And some of the rules they've come out with are effective bans of those chemistries. Here's the thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going to be made. They're just going to be made in countries not in the United States, like China, for example. The whole point of this act was to onshore the entire supply chain to manufacture those chips here. So the Biden administration's frustrating its own goals here. And so we look forward to working with them and whoever the next president of the United States may be to make sure we get back on track.
This is about looking at the entire supply chain. I think people are sort of focused on, well, whatever comes out at the end, it's just here's a silicon wafer with a chip. But no, there's a lot that went in.
Absolutely. So whether it's an Intel facility in Ohio or wherever, that's great. But as Mike was saying, if we don't make those raw materials here, we haven't onshored that supply chain. So we got more work to do.
Well, let's take a step back then. Like, leave us with, before we run out of time, what's one big thing that you hope people walk out the doors here this morning with having taken away?
Yeah, I think what I'd want folks in the audience to take away today is that this is not your grandfather's chemical industry. We are more productive than ever before. We are more innovative than ever before, but we're also safer and cleaner than ever before. You talked about, manufacturing in a more sustainable fashion before. We run a program called Responsible Care. You should go check it out on our website. The short version is it's a mandatory condition of membership. It's third-party audited. So we have people come in and look at our members' environmental, health, safety, and security performance to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing. And it's also transparent and accountable. We collect data from our members on their performance, we aggregate it, and we publicly disclose it so that everybody knows how our industry is doing. And as I said, a condition of membership, and we've made a lot of progress as an industry. Because of this program, we know that we are 4 times safer than all of manufacturing. We know that we've reduced our recordable injury and illnesses by over 20% over the past decade. Our greenhouse gas intensity, our air emissions are down by double digits over the past few years. So not only are we making more sustainable and safer products, but our operations by which those products are made are safer and sustainable too.
We're about to get the hook here. If you read Axios newsletters, though, you know we like to end on one fun thing. Mike, you get this fun thing. Somebody told me you're not just in chemistry, but you're a woodworker. Give me one fun thing you've made with your hand and the best place to go buy that kind of stuff.
Well, did Chris tell you that? Yeah, so no, that is true, right? I mean, I'll tell you, the coolest thing I did, and I just finished it up a couple weekends ago, was, but I'll have to step back. Many of you may remember the storm that came through here about 3 years ago. It was really bad with lots of tornadoes. I lost about 20 trees on my property. And I talked about sustainability, and I really, honestly...
You live it on this one,
I live it on this one. I felt really bad that these trees were not going to be used. They're going to rot in the woods. So I cut them up into 10, 12-foot sections, and I stored them. And then my son got engaged earlier this year, and he said he wants to use my shop as the reception. But it was just a shell. So my son and I, and this was great, I got to work with my son for hundreds of hours. But my son and I, we boarded up all these trees. We planed them, we had them dried, and we used them on the inside of the shop to build out the inside of the shop. So every time I see that, those are trees from my property that I was able to recycle and reuse, and I got to do a great project with my son. So that was one of the coolest things I've done.
You built a wedding venue
built
as a
a wedding
woodworker.
venue with the wood from my
small. I
property.
thought you were going to say like a chair.
No, it was a wedding venue. It's the whole thing, yeah.
Mike, thanks so much for being here. Chris, thanks for being here. Thanks to the American Chemistry Council for making all this possible. Stick around for the big finish with Crystal.
Please welcome to the stage Axios Atlanta reporter Crystal Dixon.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal Dixon. You all, if you read the Axios Atlanta newsletter, you may know me as Hannah's dog mom. So it's great to be with you this morning for our final conversation. So I'm pleased to welcome the Senior Director for Clean Tech Ecosystem Expansion at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, Cynthia Curry.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. All right, so tell us, what role does the Metro Atlanta Chamber play when it comes to encouraging companies to invest or even eye clean energy?
Yeah, so we act at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, we kind of act as more of a Sherpa or a guide
Yes.
for the community. So our whole goal is to really help unleash the ambition that's all across the state. So my particular role is in economic development. So what I do is help build the jobs and investment in the clean tech space. So I'm helping companies that are looking to grow their businesses and everything from solar, hydrogen, electrification of cars and buildings and things like that, helping them come and establish their businesses in Atlanta. And then I'm also helping to get to know all the companies that are in the Metro Atlanta space. We represent the whole entire 29 county area and really all of Georgia, because rising tide lifts all ships. So what we do is make sure that we're connected with them. We know what they're doing. We get out and evangelize their stories. We make sure that they have the support that they need, incentives-wise, as they grow their companies and scale their companies. We get them on a lot of stages so that they can talk about their work and kind of shine the light on what's happening here in Georgia. So that's a lot of the work that we do, is kind of help lift up the community around us and help that innovation spur forward with introductions and highlights and things like that.
So how long have you been in your position with the chamber right now?
Well, I have been officially employed at the chamber for almost 8 years.
Oh, wow.
I volunteered with them for 7 before they hired me. So I've been involved with the chamber for almost 15 years, but in my role in the economic development team, going on 8. So a long time.
So are there any companies, based in Georgia that are, leading the way when it comes to, I guess, investing in clean energy, or at least looking at this topic?
Yeah, Georgia is leading the whole United States in clean energy manufacturing investment since the passing of the IRA. A lot of talk up here on the IRA today.
Inflation Reduction Act, yes.
Yes, Inflation Reduction Act. Thank you. I'm bad with the acronyms. But we're number 1 in investment in clean manufacturing since the passing of the IRA. Some of the companies have been mentioned. SK started it all when they came here some time ago. Hyundai is building a mega battery plant here. Hyundai is also building near Savannah. They're building hydrogen trucks, hydrogen-fueled trucks, large-scale trucks that are doing that. We have amazing growth stage companies in Atlanta, like Cherry Street Energy. They're doing a lot of work around solar, and they're a power company. Companies like EnviroSpark are doing great work with installation of EV chargers. One thing that I think was really interesting about Georgia, and I think that makes us so unique and so attractive to these companies that are coming here, is we're really building a whole ecosystem, a circular ecosystem. So for instance, with the EVs, we have the manufacturers like SK and Honda and Kia. Kia is another OG of sustainability in Atlanta. And then we have the chip manufacturers, we have the installation manufacturers and installers, we have the battery manufacturers, and we even have battery recycling companies like Battery Resources that are helping to figure out what to do with the batteries once they're used up and what's that next life for them. So we're starting that in all the different ecosystems. But as we see the big OEMs and things like that coming, we're seeing their suppliers come really quickly after them so that they can all be in the same ecosystem, which has its own beautiful effect on the sustainability. There's less shipping, there's less kind of carbon in the transportation of the shipping of goods. So it all kind of really goes beautifully together.
Now, I understand you all have something that's called the Drawdown Georgia Business Compact. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, so that's not a chamber event, but that is a really wonderful gem of Georgia. So Drawdown is a book that kind of highlights opportunities to lower our carbon footprint across the world. And then Drawdown Georgia is a group that took that and identified the areas in Georgia where we have those opportunities to lower our carbon footprint. And then the Drawdown Georgia Business Compact is a group of companies in Georgia that are all committed to net zero. So I think now they have over 60 companies that are part of that organization. So the key to that is really, it's such a hard journey. I mean, so many times it's hard to know where to go, how to start, and having this ecosystem of other people that are doing it and have like goals is really, really beneficial to them. And they do a lot of events. They do a lot of, they have a board meeting, once a quarter where all those companies are coming in and talking about best practices, challenges that they've had, how they overcame problems, what they've had success with, what vendors have worked well for them, all those things that you can't really get from just reading. So I always say collaboration is Atlanta's superpower, and that's a really good example of that, how they all get together and kind of share resources and share knowledge. So it's making a real big impact.
So what are the biggest challenges, companies in Georgia face when it comes to, I guess, the transition to using clean energy?
I think knowledge. It's just such a huge, vast field, and I think a lot of people or companies don't really know where to start or how to begin, which is another reason that I'm very thankful that companies in Georgia will talk to one another and share that knowledge. But I think it starts with knowledge, and I will say that communication, if you're going to do any, especially on the EV front, if you're going to do anything EV-wise, call your power company. So I think there's an order of kind of action that a lot of times companies want to do this and they don't think backwards enough. So call your power company first and talk about the things that you want to do, and then identify the ways to move forward. So there's a lot of planning that's involved. There's a lot of collaboration that's involved. There's a lot of great partners that you could leverage to be involved. So I think knowing the path, knowing the challenges, and then knowing the right resources to help you are all challenges that companies are facing. It's a whole new world. We're all trying to learn this new way of thinking, and sustainability is hard to measure and it's hard to really nail down. So I think I love that people are having the conversation, and I love that we're starting to have that. But it's hard to go down an unknown path.
So what role do you all play in helping, businesses, connect with those resources that are out there?
Yeah, that's a lot of my work. I do a ton of work on kind of partnerships, introducing who needs to know who. This company needs to partner with this company to get this done. So, and I love partnerships in Atlanta. We have so many wonderful companies in Georgia. For instance, Cherry Street Energy partnered with the Porsche Experience Center and did their whole solar for their driving experience route. So partnerships like that are really beautiful because it's a smaller startup growth stage type company with a giant mammoth company like Porsche. So I think that's one way that we help kind of get to introduce the people that need to know one another. We do a lot of co-chair of a TAG, Smart Communities and Sustainabilities Board. We do tons of educational groups with that. I partner really closely with the Georgia Tech Strategic Energy Institute. It's a very long thing. They have over 1,000 people working on energy solutions. They're amazing. So we do a lot of work as well on seminars. So public education is that's a long answer to your question, is helping make sure that the public knows what to do, who to call, promoting the work that they're doing, and making sure that they have access to the resources that they need to get the job done that they need to do. And then we do lots of talking about what's happening around Georgia. I do a lot of that around the country.
It's one thing to talk about businesses, but I want to shift to, workforce development.
Yeah.
Are you all doing anything to sort of, encourage local school systems or, local universities and colleges to, equip their students with the tools they may need to enter into these fields?
Absolutely. It's a huge issue, workforce development. You can't create 18,000 jobs and then not develop the workforce to fill them. So we have a whole talent team at MAG. We've been building it up over the past 6 months that is really working with companies around Georgia, identifying where their needs are coming up, and then also partnering with schools across Georgia to make sure that those needs are lining up with the kind of paths that they're creating at their school. So that's one thing that MAC is doing personally. There's a lot of wonderful workforce development projects around Georgia that we take part in. Quick Start is an amazing program put on by GDEC, Georgia Department of Economic Development. Quick Start is one of the oldest, most successful workforce development programs in the whole country. They've got programs in K through 12 schools right now on electrification and starting to teach EV skills in the public schools. They are also working really closely with technical colleges across the country or across Georgia to make sure that they're teaching installation of EVs and solar, things like that. They're doing a lot of upskilling. Goodwill, I know that you don't think of Goodwill, like I go to Goodwill all the time to find my little treasures, but Goodwill has an amazing workforce development program with Accenture and the ARC, Atlanta Regional Commission. So they've all come together to create a workforce program centered around mostly solar and EV installation, of teaching not only college students but also upskilling. So for instance, the solar that's happening at Q-Cells in Dalton, they're taking that whole workforce ecosystem of carpet installation and they're retraining them on solar installation. So there's a lot of different workforce development projects that are happening around Georgia to really build up that talent. And then the other thing I really love about the clean tech ecosystem is there's the whole trade workforce development, and my son is in that. He's a electrician apprentice at EnviroSpark, so I love that he's on that path. But then there's also the whole kind of higher education piece as well. They need engineers, data scientists, things like that. And Georgia is got a plethora of really qualified, diverse engineering and data science type things. So I think that we have the workforce development needed, and I'm happy to see a lot of different organizations around Georgia focusing on building it up more. It's a lot more than just MAC. So I love seeing the collaboration of everyone doing that.
Are there any policy initiatives, legislative-wise, that Georgia could undertake that would make it easier for businesses?
I think that the IRA has, I mean, I know that's not a Georgia policy, but it has really opened up the door to a lot of possibility in Georgia that we would have never seen before. So I love that Governor Kemp is really, really committed to making Georgia an EV leading state. So I think that a lot of the things that we're really fortunate in Georgia is we have a really bipartisan support of this kind of sustainability focus, and that's very rare. So I'm very thankful for that. And I think the fact is that it's because of the financial and the economic prowess that it brings. I mean, this is the future. Clean tech is the future of jobs, and sustainability is the future of the world. So I'm really, really happy and thankful that we have such a bipartisan kind of support of it. And then Senator Ossoff and Commissioner Eccles, that was here earlier, launched the Georgia Green Hydrogen Board. So that's a big thing that's taking place. So we have a lot of support in all kinds of different areas in the legislation. And so our role is to kind of help make sure that people take advantage of that and know about it. And we encourage voting, but we're neutral. We're Switzerland, right? But I do think that we're very lucky in Georgia to have the bipartisan support that we do for the sustainability in the clean tech space.
Well, it looks like we're out of time, but I really want to thank you so much for our
conversation. Thank you so much.
And thank you all so much for coming. Look out for more Axios live events. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the Axios Atlanta newsletter, where you can learn more about what's happening around Metro Atlanta through our newsletter. So thank you all so much for attending, and I hope you all have a great morning. Thank you.
Thank y'all.